Hello, this is David, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and start formalize this whole podcast, YouTube, thing by having an episode 0. So this is episode 0. I do not have the name of the podcast, okay? I'm not going to sit here and rack my brains and try to think about it. I just need to just get started. So it's episode 0 of whatever podcast this is, which might be the name of it. This is whatever podcast this is, episode 0. My name is David Bennett, and I'm in a car. I'm in my wife's Honda Accord, driving from Lubbock back to my home in the Texas Panhandle because I'm having to commute, over an hour each way to go to a job that will no longer be my job at the end of September. So this is one of the things that I'm starting up as a part of that, what ends up being that the universe closed the door on me. I'm voluntarily quitting this job because my wife has been able to take a job at a university in the Panhandle, and that's what she's always wanted to do, and that's what we've been fighting for. And now that it's come up, I got to figure out something else to do. So this is one of the things that this is one of those other things to do. So, how to introduce this thing? What is whatever this podcast is going to be? I want it to actually center on multiple things. Not just one thing, but multiple things, but not too many. So I've decided on 4. And one of the things that I really, got into years ago was permaculture. And it has caused a massive paradigm shift in the way that I think about not just planting plants and trees and land and hydrology and how water works, and flows, around the land, but it's changed me as a person in the way that I look at problems and all manner of stuff. So that's one of the subjects that I want to talk about. And if you've listened to any of the other things that I've done, and I've only done a couple because, I'm just cranking this thing up, then what you've heard about is me ramble on and on about pioneer species and what they do to dirt. And I know I shouldn't actually use the term dirt, but in all instances, it really should be called soil, just to be fair. But some of the things that I've seen, they don't constitute being able to be called soil. It's dirt, right? Okay, so that's why sometimes you'll catch me calling it dirt. And so I was talking about how these plants work, why they're there. How do we not look at them as weeds and immediately go try to eradicate them and post-toasty them out of existence the minute that you see them, and what benefits that they are, because they're not your enemies, they're your tools. They're your storytellers. They're and I've like I said, I've been through this, but that whole thing with amaranth is an example of one of the things that I want to be able to touch on. I want to, one point or another, I'm going to be doing a lot of repair work on the outside of the grounds of my house. The new house that we just moved into, like a month ago. Its soil everywhere is not in good condition. And there are several things that need to be done to mitigate sunlight hitting places that I don't want to fry in the sun. I don't want the west side of my house baking in the sun. What can we do? I'm going to be doing all of that, and I'm going to be coming at it from a direction of permaculture and using plants as tools and what they're going to do for me beyond shading a particular thing. So that's one aspect of what I want to get into. The other thing that I really want to get into is I want to talk about Bitcoin, which is as far as you can get from the first subject that I just talked about, right? Permaculture, planting, using design science to retain water and build soil, and all these types of things. And so the very next thing that I want to talk about is going to be Bitcoin. Okay, I'm in the rabbit hole. I've been in the rabbit hole since the middle of 2015. Like my first Bitcoin purchase was at $250. I spent $250 and I got 0.999% of a Bitcoin because of Coinbase fees, and because they always overcharge. It's just the way Brian Armstrong is, I suppose. In either event, since I've been in the rabbit hole for so long, you can't help but to not learn some stuff about it, and it is fascinating. And so with those two subjects, permaculture and Bitcoin, one of the things that I really want to be able to do is how, in any given show that I produce, it may not be that I touch on all four subjects that I want to touch on. I don't want to have it be where we'll talk about this for 10 minutes and we'll talk about something else completely different for 10 minutes. No. I don't want it to be that way. I don't know how it's going to really work out, and it may not work out at all. And I'm completely prepared for that. But you got to start somewhere. With what, you got to write a list out of what you want. And this is my list of what I want this thing to be. So as I'm looking at these disparate subjects, I may bring in, a show that has, maybe two of the subjects. I don't really want to do shows with 3 and certainly not 4. But if I'm going to do these subjects and like more than one of them in a show, the question becomes, how do I fit them together? Is there a way to fit them together? Is there a way one of the subjects that I'm talking about can inform or elucidate part of the other subject that I talk about? And that's going to be a real trick, because some of the other two subjects that I haven't mentioned yet are it's going to be weird. And like I said, I'm completely prepared for a total fail, epic fail. As long as I fail as fast as I possibly can, then I'm golden. Most people don't get that. If you're gonna do something, if you're gonna fail at it, you want that failure to happen as fast as possible. You don't want to be like 2 years into something and have it fail then. You want it failing as quick as possible so that you can pick yourself back up and get back on with your life. So it may fail. I'm completely prepared for it. So we'll be talking about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, but be warned. I'm a shitcoin minimalist. Okay? I'm not quite in the maximalist camp because I can't be. Ethically, I cannot be, because I hold a bag of Litecoin, I hold a bag of Doge, I hold a bag of Ethereum Classic, and I sold all my Ether, and I sold all of my Bitcoin Cash, because those will be subjects, for other shows as to why I sold that stuff. But mostly what I really like is Bitcoin. I don't have that much of a problem with Litecoin. I don't think it's as valuable as Bitcoin, but I don't think it's utter trash either. And I'll get flack for that, but whatever. The space of Bitcoin is replete with getting flack. You can't do nothing in this space without flak cannons literally just trying to blow you out of the sky every second. And if you're not in the space and you want to get into the space, and you're like your first reaction is like, my God, everybody here is mean. No, they ain't mean. It's the space's immune system. It's one of the hardest immune systems I've ever run across. And I have a background in biology. I have a Bachelor of Science in Cell and Molecular Biology. I know more about the immune system than the law should allow. And I got to tell you, this is not people being mean. This is a community immune system. So be prepared if you're going to go into that, and be prepared for some of the stuff that we talk about when we talk about Bitcoin. So third subject is going to be education, but not so much. The reason that I'm picking education is because one of the other things that I got to do to make ends meet once my paycheck starts coming in, or stops coming in, I have got to make ends meet by being a substitute teacher for the time being. So I will be at a rural, because we live in we moved from Lubbock to a very small town. And I gotta tell you guys, I love it. I love it. I love it. I don't care that I don't have a Starbucks. In fact, I'm really, really freaking happy I don't have a Starbucks that's like staring me in the face all the time. But be that as it may, I'm in a really, really rural area, but the school system, the independent school system here is huge. Why? Because it services so many hundreds of square miles that it's not a rural community. That's not even funny. It is, I mean, I think the number that I heard was over 250 square miles of area is serviced by the ISD that I'm going to be substitute teaching for. And that covers a lot. There's a lot of farmers. There's a lot of ranching going on up here. And all their kids need to go to school, so they get bussed into this particular ISD. This ISD, for a town of, a few fistfuls of thousands of people, has 16 campuses. 16. They have 2 high schools, for God's sakes. It's a little bitty town, and I am still in awe of this, but it's an effect of what happens when you require education on a population that is not centralized. Now, that may be easy to talk about Bitcoin. Decentralization, centralization is an idea that is in Bitcoin, and I see its analog in the school system. So I want to be able to talk about what it is that I see on a daily basis. And if it's going to be really boring, I won't bring it to you. But I have a sneaky suspicion that I'm going to learn a whole lot about the public school system in rural Panhandle, Texas, that I'll bet is interesting. I'll bet it's a lot more interesting than I think. Pay as shit, don't care. I'm going to learn something new. At one point or another, we're all going to die. We're all going to be worm food. Frankly, I'm excited about learning something new. I've been doing the same job for 9 years, which brings me to the last topic, the last kind of topic that I want to talk about on this particular show. And that is the world. It's going to be hard to describe it. I'm going to say the world of video gaming. But if you think that means me sitting in a chair playing the latest MMO or the latest first-person shooter, forget it, dude. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the whole ecology of what goes into video games. So maybe I'll talk about video cards. And again, hold on. Never mind. Hold that thought. Maybe video cards, computer hardware. But what I'm really more interested in, because I've been doing it for the last 9 years, is things that relate to scientific visualization using things like game engines. Let's say, what do I mean by game engine? The Unity game engine. Lots of games are produced on the Unity platform. So the engine itself is a piece of software code that enables you to go in and put together a video game and allow you a programming environment, an environment to put artwork in, an environment to model in, an environment to animate things in, and have a product that's playable on the other side that you can just email somebody if it's not too big. And that's the neat thing about the Unity platform, is you can do that. Other game engines, Unreal. Unreal is responsible for most AAA games as a platform than I think any other game engine out there. It's been around for years, rock solid, that type of thing. The other one would be the CryEngine from when the CryEngine first came out. Its demo game was Crysis. And their selling point, their marketing point was literally this: you don't have enough money to build a computer big enough to run this game. You can't do it. And it was like, it's like, wow, that's an amazing marketing tool, basically taking a giant dump on your potential customers, and it worked. Oh my God, it worked. People raced. They emptied like checking accounts to go get the very best video card, to go load up their computer with 32 megs of RAM and as many processors as they could put on it. But really, it was all about the video card. And yep, it worked. And now the CryEngine, totally rock solid. But also, I want to talk about like things that go in behind the scenes, like 3D modeling, some 3D animation stuff. And but I don't really want to talk about it from the in terms of, oh, this is how they built Halo, or oh my God, this is how they built the last Black Ops. I don't care, because frankly, and this will catch me flack, while I love video games, I understand that what they really are is just a huge life waster. Believe me, I know. I played Call of Duty, the original Call of Duty. When Call of Duty first came out, and it was World War II based, it was the very first one, I could play that thing for 8 hours straight. And I got so good at it that one day, like while I was engaged in, like, I don't know, it was like 20 there was like 20 people for like a last man standing thing. On their version of BattleNet or whatever it was, where you're playing with other players real time and you're just basically killing each other all the time. I got so good at it that I was accused of running an aimbot, which, if anybody doesn't know what an aimbot is, it's a piece of program that you hang off of while you're running a particular game, and it kind of, in this particular case, it helps you aim insofar that you just got to get close with your mouse to being able to point in the general direction, and all of a sudden this thing will make it kind of hit the player that you really wouldn't have hit that player had you been playing raw, but since you got the aimbot going, it'll kind of redirect where that projectile's going and hit the player. So I got accused one night of running one, and I was like, oh my God, I've arrived. And I was really happy about it. It was funny because I was happy about being accused of cheating. Generally speaking, if somebody accuses you of being a cheater, that's not a good way to start a conversation that's going to be civil. But for me, I was like, hell yes! I was like, with freaking respect. So, but in the end, I mean, they're fun, right? But they're life wasters. They are. They offer, like for instance, like Call of Duty. Let's take it back to Call of Duty. Any one of the series. If I'm trying to learn how to watch my corners and pick a good sniper's nest, that's not bad training. I don't know. I've never been in the military, but I'll bet you that it's not completely worthless to go into the military and somebody says check your, when you're getting trained in basic and they say something like check your corners, or displace, and you've been playing these kinds of things for so long and that lingo is in there, it may be helpful. But I'm not planning on doing any urban warfare. It's ridiculous. I don't need to check my corners. I don't need to figure out a place to put a sniper's nest. I'm not interested, right? So where am I going with this particular topic? Back to education. So this would be a way that I'd be able to link education with stuff that goes on in video games, because while video games are not going to replace the classroom, they can certainly help. They can certainly act as a tool for study later on. I don't think, and I'm not an advocate of having 20 kids in a classroom playing a video game in the classroom, unless you're teaching them how to play it. No. What I'm thinking of is situations where video games are developed that reinforce like a concept, and I ain't talking about multiplication tables. I mean, those have been done to death in video games, and they all suck. All right, I mean, I had an Atari 400. It was my very first computer, was an Atari 400. And two of the things that I got with it, or that I was required to get with it, because my dad was like, "I'll get you this, but you gotta play these," was math educational games. Oh my God! I mean, beginning at the very front end of video games, everybody knew that this would be good for education, and nobody's been able to pull it off. Not really. I mean, if y'all have some examples, get them to me. We're going to be talking about stuff like this. But so my bent for video games is, how can they be useful? How can we play a simulation that will teach us something, that will, give something back to us? But along that time, along that way, I want to be able to talk about like 3D animation packages, like Houdini from Side Effects, which is my favorite. That's why I mention it. There's Autodesk stuff too. I haven't used them in years, so I'll, if I'm going to be talking about how to build a model or anything like that, or how to export something, or even if we hit stuff like that, it's going to be from Houdini from Side Effects, which you can download for free from the Side Effects website, but it doesn't allow you full frame rendering to like 1080 or 4K, which if you bought the package, it would. It doesn't allow stuff like certain exports of file types. But other than that, it's fully functional. As long as you're not trying to, use it to make a next Spider-Man film, by rendering frames of, or you're not, needing the FBX exporter to, export huge environmental scenes over to video games, you're golden, So that's one of the reasons why I also picked this package, is that anybody can get into this thing. So those are the four. But I mentioned something while I was going through that list about the four, about dirt. And that brought me into, somehow or another, I got into talking about the fact that it wasn't dirt, it was the education system, and the fact that where we live now is a huge mishmash of decentralized rural communities that are responsible for everything from cotton farming to sunflower farming to peanut farming. There's corn. I don't think corn has any business being grown out here because of how much water it uses, but there it is. But also ranching. Now, that is going to fit with permaculture, but since in the Bitcoin world, if you don't know, there's a huge movement of carnivory and people that eat a lot of beef, specifically, like beef and lamb and red meat. I don't do it myself. I love steak. I love meat. These guys are hardcore. The Bitcoin carnivores? No. These guys actually eat nothing but meat. They don't drink beer either, which sucks. I would hate to go to dinner with these guys. I want to go to dinner with these guys, but they're not going to drink a beer. The steak is going to be awesome, but I'm like, well, crap. I need some red wine or beer with my steak. Anyway, so I'll be able. I'm examining these connections and trying to figure out a way to plug these things into each other, but do it in a meaningful way, and not just, oh, yeah, that's great, Dave. Somehow or another, you were able to talk about ranching and Bitcoin, and the only way you got to plug it in together was the fact that Bitcoiners eat meat. No. It needs to be better than that. That's what I'm going to be fighting for. Stuff like that. But on that note, one of the things that I really want to do is I want to start interviewing people like most podcasts do, but I want to interview the ranchers out here, the guys that produce beef. Because most of the people that are producing beef up this way, like for instance, Amarillo is the closest big city to where I'm at. Yes, there are feedlots, but to tell you the truth, I don't see them. I see tons of live beef on hoof in the fields, in pasture, grazing, the way they were meant to, the way that bovine was supposed to do is the way it's being done up here. I want to talk to these people, and I want to talk to them about their operations. What is it like? What's the life like? I want to talk to them about, how do you not get killed by standing next to an animal that weighs you times like 20x, right? These types of things. But I'm also thinking, I want to ask them, I want to ask them about, do they know anything about, cover crops, which is used heavily in permaculture, and are they using them? And if not, would they consider using them? And if they did, under what circumstances and all, those kind of questions. But at the very end of these interviews, if I get a chance to do them, I want to ask them about Bitcoin. Have you heard of Bitcoin? If you have, do you know what it is, how it works? Do you think it's a threat? Do you think it's only used by drug dealers? Do you think it's only used by terrorists? Because that's the narrative that's being pushed. Oh, Bitcoin is it's only being used by terrorists and child pornographers and blah, blah, blah. No, it's not. There's a lot of people I know that use Bitcoin, including me. We don't do any of that. I have zero interest in terrorism. I have zero interest in black market crap. Dude, I don't need any of that shit. And there's not a whole lot of people who actually do. And quite frankly, to say that Bitcoin is only used by drug dealers, prostitutes, and all this kind of stuff leads me to a couple of conclusions. One, well, hell, if I can use it to buy Vice, shit must be real money. Because guess what? A drug dealer is going to be your very first person to tell you whether or not what you got in your hand to trade them for their product is actually money. That's the guy you listen to. He's the one that actually knows. Dead serious. Prostitutes, same way. They recognize real hard currency better than any banker ever will. Sorry, that's just the way it is. So they've been doing this crap for so long, right? So there's that. I mean, I must be holding on to real money if drug dealers and terrorists and all those people take it. Because if it wasn't real money, they wouldn't take it. Okay, and the second thing is, what do you think anybody was using before Bitcoin? Bitcoin was born in January 2009. The white paper was written published a few months before in 2008. It's been with us for almost 10 years. So 11 years ago, were drug dealers using Bitcoin? No, they were not using frickin' Bitcoin. They were using the United States dollar. Does that mean that we should go stack up all the bricks of fiat money in the world that's ever been used for drugs and prostitution, child trafficking, sex trafficking, whatever, and light it on fire? No, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So we're going to, I want to get into stuff like that too, because that's fascinating that people can be that close-minded on something that's only 10 years old. It's amazing. I'm hopeful that it will generate, minutes upon minutes of good content. So again, just to recap that last one, that, the ranchers that I want to talk to about their beef operations and how this works, that's probably going to be part of the permaculture stuff. Because I don't think anybody's interviewing them out here. You get the farm report, but, the only way that I can go listen to like an actual rancher is to go listen to somebody like Darby Simpson, who's always interviewed by Diego Footer on Permaculture Voices podcast. If it's still named that, it may be named something different. But he's a modern rancher. I want to talk to these old guys, man. I want to know what how they thought about it. Okay, so it also wanted to talk about how to stitch all this stuff together through modern social media. I have an Instagram. I have a Twitter. I have Facebook. I have SoundCloud. I have this. I have that. And oh my God, it's just, and a Steam It page, and my own WordPress, and blah blah blah. And it's like, and if I were to start thinking about, doing a separate thing for each one of these, no. That's just, I don't know. I guess other people do it, and that's fine, but I don't have that much time in a day. So what I'm going to try to do is figure out a way to make all these things work together where all of them support the latest podcast, the latest YouTube video that I put up, because I kind of want to do both. It's just not the podcast. I want to do videos that actually show, like, property walk, around my house and show where things are, and believe me, I will point at stuff for you like that idiot from North Korea. I'll point at everything that I can point to, and it will all be instantly solved, just like that guy. But so there's videos, and then there's the podcast, the audio long-form podcast. How do I promote all this stuff using these various platforms? And I guess I really shouldn't be all, kind of too much worried about what's called cross-posting. But for some reason, people get really, really butthurt about it. And I think it's more about the context in which cross-posting is done. So what I mean by all this is, like, if I publish to SoundCloud this thing that I'm doing right now, I want to be able to promote it on Twitter and Instagram. So, but like, I'd like to get it to where I could just, publish it to SoundCloud, grab the link or the embed, depending, throw it into another social media, and have that actually thrown into yet. Wait a minute, it's confusing even me. So I'm not going to be able to come up with a plan. It's going to because it is so confusing, as I just illustrated. I got to come up with I think a plan will organically develop as to how things are done. But be aware that the plan is to use every single possible credible, social media platform that I can get to push the same damn thing that day. But I want to make it as easy on myself as possible. Like, I guess if I were to think of a dream world, it would be a continuous list of, or a whole bunch of if this then that, or IFTTT. If you haven't checked out IFTTT, Google it. It can do some pretty cool stuff. It's a little dicey, but it would be fun to have it all set up to where I just push either the video on YouTube or the audio podcast on SoundCloud or whatever it is that I settle into, and have it propagate in an automated fashion to Twitter, to Instagram, to Facebook, to whatever else I can connect up to it. Anything that's got a following. So if anybody of you guys know how to do that without me reinventing the wheel, or can just point me to a couple of places where I can learn, because I know that what I'm suggesting is not stupid, it's a time saver. I know other people are like going, oh my God, if I have to do this, like publish this same thing 15 different times, yet one more time, I'm going to scream. I know those people exist, and so I know I'm not alone. So if anybody's got that, like, I'm not even looking for an answer. A nudge in a proper direction might be good, like point to a article or two, something. I'm not scared to learn stuff by myself. Clearly, I've learned everything that I've ever wanted to learn. So if you guys could do that, I would appreciate it. But I did want you to be aware that I'm trying to figure out a way not only to connect all the topics together in ways that are meaningful. I want to be able to figure out a way to connect all the social engines together also in a meaningful way. So to recap, the topics that I want to talk about is gardening, permaculture, farming and ranching, beef, Bitcoin, video games and education, and all things like that. Okay, so it should be interesting. Again, prepared. I'm so prepared for epic failure. It's just not, I mean, not even entering my mind that I'm going to be butthurt by epic failure. And I'm going to fail as fast as I can, and then I'm going to fail right after that as fast as I can. And at one point or another, I may stop failing and actually get the hang of this crap. In either event, I will sign off. This has been episode 0 of whatever this podcast name is, and I will talk to you all later.